So today, guys, we are back again with another Advice Corner video, a series that has been put on hold for, other greener pastures. I just don't like to be doing just solely this like self-improvement kind of content all the time, but I do enjoy to make the odd serious but not serious advice video that we like to do here. We like to have fun. That's what we call it. It's not that deep, bro. We just like to have fun. But yeah, our video today is called, and I'm probably going to screw this up, but it's called, It's Not Your Fault, but It's Your Responsibility to Fix It. So yeah, guys, on the one side, you do need a sort of ego defense here, and you need to be able to forgive yourself. But on the other hand, you still have to take ownership over your situation and figure out how you're going to fix it and overcome the issue at hand. So yeah, guys, this is not your excuse to just wallow in self-pity, though. Of course, we all do it. We all end up doing it, even though we say, oh, I'm not going to do that. That's not going to be me. I'm going to be the good guy who doesn't do that. No, you end up wallowing in self-pity, as we do. Yeah, whatever you've done to screw up, we should realize that society itself has done things to mess with us and to put boundaries in our path. You really should have received a certain mentorship at a young age, of course, to gain the sort of goals that society has promised, this sort of, this happiness, this pursuit of happiness that we've been promised. In many cases, it just hasn't shown up for us. And it isn't necessarily all our fault. There's things that come in the way of that society is equally promising us, and they're not giving us the tools, to achieve certain things. We live in times where we are finding things which were incredibly easy for our parents, such as starting a career, finding a partner, a life partner, a companion, buying a house, and overall just achieving the American dream, are objectively not as easy for us as they were for our parents. And that's not to blame that on our parents, of course. It's just to state a matter of fact. In fact, not only is it not easy now, it's not as easy as it was, but the overall lack of guidance is sort of a result of how easy things were in the past for our parents. So that is sort of to let them off the hook a little bit, but also just, as an explanation, a possible theorem. They didn't necessarily have to take the same steps that might have been in generations before them. Things were made incredibly easy. So there's sort of things about navigating the complex landscapes of the world that maybe the past generations didn't necessarily have to deal with them as much as, say, like, the greatest generation. And before them, they may have actually had a tougher world, the hard times, so to say, that we're starting to find ourselves in now. But we're also finding we have a lack of guidance because the generation before us came from such easy times. So yeah, earlier generations might have actually been better mentors for us. And if we can go back and, sort of look at what these earlier generations have said, we might actually find more wisdom than the generation just before us, which is an odd thing because generally you would assume, go to your elders who are elder of you just like one or two generations, but you might have to go back further than that. It's not Gen X, it's not the boomers. You might actually have to read the writings or go find somebody who's very old and still a member of the greatest generation or one of those other generations to actually get the real true wisdom that you need. But one thing you do have to realize, all these sort of methods in hand that, you can use to get ahead, you have to take into account that you did start off on the back foot, and you have to acknowledge that. And that's an important aspect of not having low self-esteem, is you need to realize, we're sort of underdogs right now. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. You should look at that as a call to action. And so don't put all this weight of the world on your shoulders. You got to achieve all these things that have been promised, Maybe set the expectations a little more realistic. Shoot for the stars and land in the moon, as the cheesy elementary school poster says. So yeah, the reason why the younger generations are hitting these targets, especially late in life, the ones that specifically involve, starting a family, being set in your career, these aren't just the result of a bunch of isolated individual screw-ups. And yes, there are individual screw-ups which do occur. Somebody gets hooked on drugs, somebody they stay inside all day and play video games. They do all these things which are individual choices which may lead to the result. And that's not something we can ignore, That personal improvement has to be an aspect of this. But it really is like a individualistic view to say that all these things occur in a vacuum apart from the society, when indeed they exist in the society and as a result of the society. These things don't just occur in a vacuum. A man on an island chooses to do these things. These were scenarios which were set up for you, and you have to acknowledge that. You may have personally failed to them, but really the system did fail you in a certain way by allowing these things to even be a possibility. One thing to also address is not just the serious addictions like, drugs, alcohol, whatever you want to call it. We won't go through all of them. Not just those serious addictions, but also just the nature of technology and what was promised for society maybe hasn't quite lived up to, what it was supposed to live up to. The conveniences are definitely there. There's definitely convenience, but maybe the sort of social aspects of technology have not necessarily panned out in the way that we wanted to. We don't live in the Jetsons society. We don't live in this utopia. We live in the, the sci-fi dystopia closer to, but not even that. You don't even get your cool Blade Runner car or whatever. You don't get your cool hoverboard. You get the cheap Chinese hoverboard that spies on you and blows up and can't be taken on airplanes. Yeah, no, you get this technology that just doesn't live up to that. And it's had a lot of social impacts. And honestly, what technology has done, especially social media, has turned a bunch of people into shallow narcissists. But it's also a type of narcissism that has a very low, bottom to the floor, just through the floor self-esteem, which you would not expect. Narcissists, they must love themselves. But that's not necessarily the case. They just think that everything is about them. Doesn't mean you love yourself. You can hate yourself while thinking you're the most important thing in the world. And that is the ultimate nihilism. And yeah, one of the other things that this narcissism does is we set up very, very high expectations for ourselves and what we should achieve. Because, I'm a rocket scientist. I'm an engineer. I'm the shaker, the mover, the person who's going to change everything. But when it turns out you're not that, or you're not that immediately without struggle, you start to fall into the pit of despair because, I'm not what I'm supposed to be. The sort of gifted child burnout that we experience. Very current thing to this generation, though. I'm not saying it hasn't existed in the past. It's just a very currently relevant thing. And yes, I am going to address the sort of cliche, but social media does feed us a carefully crafted, list of people who have these personal brands, which make us think that, perfection should be the norm. This like perfectly crafted image is what we should be now. It's what we should be in our friend group, in our community, in our local world. We should be this, we should match up to this global, perfectly crafted, guy in LA has lights and cameras. He takes him to the gym and he does all the perfect sets in the world. He uses fake weights. Woman does her makeup. She Facetunes. She uses AI. She does all these things, spends hundreds of dollars, has perfect lighting and cameras and such. And you think in your little bedroom, looking in the mirror or on social media, just taking a photo of yourself, that you should look like that guy or that girl who has this perfectly crafted image, who may have people working for them specifically to achieve this ideal, to sell products and to do such things. To have brand deals and to do all these things. Some people say, oh, that's aspirational. It gives you something to shoot for. But is it really something to shoot for when the only way to attain it is to do the same things that they do? I mean, if you're going to do that, fine, whatever. It's okay then. But for your actual life, it's a horrible thing. It's not good. You're never going to achieve that. You can achieve some semblance of it. You can shoot for again, you can shoot for the stars and land on the moon, man. The moon man. But, yeah, If you don't have that mindset going in and you just really think you're going to achieve that goal, if you're very goal oriented, which is a very good thing to be in general, but when the goal is not something realistic, you really take a hit to your self-esteem when inevitably it doesn't happen, when the demons of comparison really attack us. And they are demons. I hate to break it to you. It is a demon. It's not just, some psychologist thing that's made up in a textbook. It's a real thing that's spiritual. So yeah, going back, one point I wanted to make is that to achieve these things, you essentially have to cheat. I saw this thing with guitarists. They'll cheat to make it look. They'll speed up their playing. They'll do all these things. They'll tune the audio. The singers will auto tune their voices. And to achieve these things, essentially what you have to become is a poser. You have to be somebody who pretends to have skill. And there are certain elements of craft, of editing, of making things look good and doing them right and presenting yourself well. And I do that with my channel, maybe not to the best effect. I could do better. But that's just tweaks. But when somebody is basically faking their whole thing and presenting it as real and attainable, like it's not like a Hollywood Marvel movie where it's CGI. You're watching a makeup tutorial and it's CGI. Think about that. Think about that for a minute. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that insane? Isn't that like something that they would put into a horror novel, psychological horror, if you think about it? So yeah, as we said, the pursuit of these things might end up with you being healthier ultimately. You might become better. You might fix certain things with your makeup. You might look better. You might become wealthier by taking some stock tips on a video. You might become better at guitar by trying to play perfectly like the guy in the video where he cheated. But you might do all these things. You might become a better person. But ultimately, at the end of the day, even though we achieve these things possibly and we become, I hate to say it, more evolved as people, not in a science-brained way, but, in a personal evolution sort of way. You might achieve a sort of higher state, but you're going to achieve that higher state without confidence and without self-esteem. And then people are going to look at you and you say, yeah, you're good. You're doing all these things. You have all these positive things about yourself. But what's missing? Why do you not think you've made it? Why have you achieved all these things? And yet I look in your face and I see a lack of confidence. And that's a hard question to answer. In some ways, we're the smartest generation. We're the most skilled generation. People have all these side hustles. They're doing all these things. They're doing, making money, doing all these things that previous generations would not have even thought to do. And yet our self-esteem is at an all-time low, just as a general. And part of this is you start to live in an over-optimized society. If everybody's, as they said in the movie The Incredibles, everybody's super, nobody is. If everybody is this cybernetic being who has perfected themselves with technology and augmented themselves and done all these things that they want to do in the future, then everybody has to do those things, and that's the new norm, and that's the new base level. And then we've just changed the base level of achievement up a level. And have we really benefited ourselves by doing that? Yeah, and instead of achieving things that are higher and more important spiritually, godly things, being right with God, we seek these unique experiences. We all want to be doing the most amazing things at all times when perhaps that's not what we should be doing. But yet we're all being sort of funneled into it, whether we like it or not. It's sort of a refinement culture thing. Everybody's condensing down into everybody has to do these things. It's just sort of accepted. And you don't have to do them. But to be part of a certain social groups, to have certain social cachet, perhaps you do have to do them. That's a social pressure. Fundamentally, the question here is, what do we do about this? Well, as always, you want to focus on digging yourself out of the situation, not focus on spiraling sideways and just, continually recognizing your situation, which is good. That's the first thing, is you recognize the situation. But in and of itself, that is not digging yourself out. That is not progress. And yeah, I know this is an overall going to be a positive video, but we're not all going to make it. And that's the nature of free will and reality. But wouldn't it be at least better, to encourage people and for all of us, even if we don't make it in a certain sense, make it, why don't we all just try? Why don't we all just try to do something better tomorrow to achieve the goals that we have and to achieve some sort of peace in our lives, sort of, spiritual peace. Yeah, this sort of nature of, wouldn't it be better to just die trying? And I know that's like a cliche. That's another cliche. There's too many cliches in this video, man. That's all I got. I'm not a true scholar. But yeah, I think this is sort of what I'm getting at here is an inherently stoic idea. You can't remove this from being a Christian idea as well. This idea of continually striving and stumbling even towards your goals, not total perfection, but moving forward, even if it's messy, even if there's steps backwards, sideways, to and fro, hop, skip, and a jump. Worrying ultimately about whether you're going to make it to these goals is going to ultimately ensure that you're not going to make it. It's going to become a self-fulfilling prophecy. I kind of hate that term a little bit. It's a little bit of a pet peeve. People say it too much, probably, but it's true in a certain sense, in a certain context. And yeah, of course you're going to worry about it. We all worry. It's just the nature. I mean, if we didn't love anything, if we didn't have any goals, that would be probably the only way as a weak human, as somebody who isn't, most of us not being at a higher spiritual level, most of us are going to worry. But there's got to be a limit on that. There's got to be a cap on it, at least, to make it so that we can achieve our goals. And not necessarily achieve them, but, not go crazy. One way I would put this is true failure isn't to love something or to want something or to have aspirations and to fail in those aspects. True failure is being so concerned with them that you ultimately don't achieve them. An example of a true failure is not, applying for the job and not getting it. The true failure is never applying for the job that you wanted to apply for, of having that and then not pursuing it, and not because you rationally decided not to pursue it. True failure is the things we run away from. And true failure isn't saving up money for the house and then finding out that the prices have gone up and that you can't afford it anymore. True failure is having no goals, setting no goals, and achieving no goals. Just sort of letting the world push you adrift. And this is not the sort of, being open to the will of God or being open to, I don't want to say destiny, but, what God's plan for you is. This is just letting the world dictate you. That is the true failure. The world guiding you. A ship lost at sea. What I've just said here really plays into why I think this sort of, black pill stuff, if you haven't heard about it, why I think it needs to die. A hard death right away, as soon as possible. It needs to die the hardest death possible because it's not useful to attaining goals. It's not useful towards setting a good mindset, a good state of being as a human being in this universe we have to live in. It's just not useful for anything. It's good for nothing. It's all intellectually superior and, it sounds so special. It sounds so right because it's deep, man. But it's just ultimately, real truth is both, factually correct and it's, meaningful. It has meaning laden in it. It's not just this junk that's useful and will cause you despair. Nihilism is ultimately so dangerous and so insidious that it should not be even considered whether it is true or not. It should not be considered. You need to wipe it out of your mind, extinguish it. It should be an ideology which is wiped off the face of the earth, and it should be wiped from the souls of all mankind. And if I had my way, it would not exist in me, it would not exist in the world, it would not exist in anybody, but it creeps like a thief in the night, and it's always there, and it really is the bane of existence. And if you need to remove people from your life, or at least keep them at arm's length, stay away from me, I'm keeping my distance a little bit until you get rid of this thing. Do it. Get those nihilistic people out of your life. You don't need them. And nihilism is not being sad. Nihilism is not having a negative attitude about things, because that happens. That's situational. Nihilism is an ideology. It is an idea about the world. And I don't care if it's lazy nihilism. I don't care if it's destructive nihilism. You got to get it out of there. You got to get it out. It's not useful for anybody. I don't know how many times I have to say this. Get the nihilists out. Get them out. Even if you have to have a certain delusional level of confidence to wipe this nihilism away, I would kind of suggest you maybe do that before you be nihilist. It's better to be a little bit arrogant and to dial that back. That can be dialed back. I think that's better than to be a nihilist and to live without purpose and without mission and without anything. Because I know what that feels like, and I don't want to go there again. And if it requires you to do things in your life that your parents didn't have to do or their parents didn't have to do in order to wipe this sort of nihilism out of your life and to really chase things that you should chase, which are good goals, you have to do it. You just have to, because the only alternative is death. Not just death in the grave, which has been defeated. It's a metaphysical death that has occurred if you allow nihilism to take over. It's a death that can be reversed possibly by many things, which come from the providence of God. But to die in your nihilism is to really truly die. Another thing that we all need to learn, I think, is we need to stop complaining. And I know I do a lot of complaining. I do a lot of it. I do my fair share of complaining because I have a voice and I can use it while I still have it. But specifically complaining just about, I think, the system. And I know it's kind of fun to do it. It's kind of fun to poke holes in the little, things about society that we don't like. But if you're going to complain about it and not take steps to change it or to affect change in your own life, it's better off that you wouldn't talk about it at all. It's probably not what you need at the moment. Do some self-critique before you critique the system, is what I would say. I know it's a bit of a, it's a cliche Jordan Peterson thing. Oh, buddy, you got to check your ego at the door and you got to do the clean your room before you can change the world, man. That's not even the right accent. I'm not good at accents. So this next idea is a bit stolen, but it's been said that maybe about it's a made up statistic probably, but it probably require only about 5% of a population to just stand up and say enough is enough to actually really change things. And I'm not advocating violence, but these things would occur, by force. That's just the nature of the world and society. If you have a problem with that, you have a problem with history. I don't know what to do. I'm sorry. I can't always sugarcoat things for you. No. But yeah, 5%, it doesn't necessarily have to be, force, but, doing charity as well, taking action, doing things to better the world. But my question is, this 5% of people who's probably needed to fix things, where are they? Where are those 5% of people? There's a lot of people complaining. It's more than 5% of the people. But yeah, we've all kind of just become a little bit lazy, haven't we? And that's the fact. We can sit on social media, and really maybe that's what these things are designed for, is to give us a relief valve, a pressure valve, so that we can release that pressure and achieve nothing and do nothing. And things stay the same. But what are you going to do? That's what people do. It's not necessarily that they're evil. It's just the way things are. And, one thing I've heard is, people always want to talk about tolerance. We need to be a more tolerant society. Maybe the thing that would fix society, the big idea here, is if we were more intolerant, not of people, more intolerant of bad things in society. If we were more intolerant of evil people somewhat too, if we were more intolerant of these things, perhaps the problems would go away a little bit. I know that's crazy, but maybe doing something about the problem would have an end effect on the problem. Maybe grandstanding morally about oh, well, bad guy does bad thing, but we love him and God loves him. And that's good. That's good and all. You still got to do something about the bad guy doing the bad thing. And you can't just let him get away with evil all the time. Martyrdom is an amazing thing, and it's a calling, but it doesn't mean we live out our lives as just these pacifists who just let everything happen. That everybody's like that. If you're in the society, if you're in the world, you sort of have an obligation to stand up for what's right. And ultimately, that's what might get you martyred, is standing up for it, being willing to put your life on the line for it. If anything, the person who doesn't get martyred is the person who sits in the room and just lets it happen. They don't get martyred. Why would anybody come after them? They're not going to do anything about it. They're just going to continue and let it happen. Those people don't get martyred generally. People get martyred are the people who are in the world, enacting change, doing good things. They're the ones who get the brunt of it. And another thing is, we have all these bright minds in our world. We have all these people who are very smart, who, even compared to past generations, the amount of knowledge that's out there, the amount of people who actually think for themselves is much higher. And what should be happening, and what isn't quite happening as of yet, is these people just being unapologetic and, not bending, and just having an iron will and standing up for what's right. And it just needs to happen. It's gonna happen, but it's like, we're taking a while to get there. That's my positive outlook, is that people are waking up. People are realizing that these things are, I don't want to make hard statements on these things because it's controversial. It's controversial, guys. But people are starting to realize truth. And what's that truth? Whatever you want to give me YouTube views. I'm just kidding. That's not true. But I also don't want to get banned off here, so there's certain things I can't say, certain things that don't matter all that much in the grand scheme of things. So we're not going to get into a political debate. But yeah, there is truth. And most of those are spiritual truth. That's the most important in the hierarchy. Don't forget that. Yeah, we have strayed a little bit from the topic here a little bit, but we are going to get back on track, and we're going to transition to the next section here soon. That second part of the title that you might be interested in. So I'm getting at here is, it isn't our fault necessarily, all that's happened to the world, the society that we live in. We live in a society, guys, but we have to live in this society that we live in. Indeed, indubitably. We have to live in it. We can't just run away to our little hovels, hide away, our nuclear bunker. We can't just go into that and hibernate. No, we have to live in the world. And one analogy I want to make is, the plumber, he comes to fix the pipes, and he has to undo mistakes which are not necessarily his own mistakes. Somebody else put in the pipes, they made the wrong decisions, they put in the wrong gauge, they put in the wrong materials, they screwed it all up, They did the wrong things. They're a big dummy. They did it 20 years ago. It should last 100 years. They gotta fix it anyway. I don't know enough about plumbing, but I've seen some videos on Facebook. I know that people screw some stuff up. And even if that plumber made that installation and did it wrong and did it incorrectly himself, does it change what he has to do? If it's your fault and you screwed it up, you still gotta fix it. And the side benefit of that is, if you screwed it up, you're the best one to fix it, because you know exactly where you screwed up. And actually, it's better fixing your own screw-ups than fixing somebody else's screw-ups. That's something you learn as an engineer. So yeah, what this analogy is really getting at is, this is why you should be in charge, partially at least, of fixing your own screw-ups. Because you're the best one to fix it sometimes. You can go to the therapist, they can give you help. You can go to your church. In my faith, we have something called confession. I know some of you Catholics as well have that. Same kind of deal, same kind of analogy here. You go there, you get help. But when you go away from that help, who's in charge of fixing it? Who is the foreman on that site of fixing this situation that you've got yourself into? It's you. Because nobody else can make you do it. Nobody else ultimately knows all the little twists and turns of your psychology better than you do. Now, it takes an outside perspective to not be delusional about it, but you still know things about yourself that other people cannot know and maybe shouldn't know and should be used in order to fix your situation. You ultimately have the most information. When you go out and you get outside information about your situation, you get the wisdom you need from the outside. You get the outside take that you need, and you have the inside take that you need. Now you have all of the information, and all you have to do is apply that. You have to make an application on that knowledge to fix the situation. I know I brought up therapy and stuff like that, and this is getting to be a little bit of a therapy session, isn't it, guys? It's a little bit of a video therapy session. You know, you might even think this video is going to be sponsored by BetterHelp, but it's not. So don't worry. It's not sponsored by BetterHelp. It's not sponsored by that not because we're ethical or that we have some ideological stance against it, because we're not popular enough to get sponsorships here. So you can sponsor by helping me get my bread up, by liking, subscribing, sharing to boost in the algorithm. That's what you can do. You can hit that like and subscribe. To get me boosted in the algorithm. Yeah, it's a thing. It indeed be a thing. And ultimately, why am I asking for this? Because it's my way of fixing the situation. The situation of this YouTube channel. Sucking eggs. Ooh, what's that? Oh. Might have unplugged something. You can help fix my situation by giving me more dopamine, by increasing that view count. Ooh. This is me hitting the like and subscribe and going up in the algorithm. And that's one thing I've learned. Resilience. You gotta beat life. When life beats you hard, you gotta street fight. You gotta Mortal Kombat move on them. You gotta elbow them. There's no rules. You gotta kick them. Ooh, you gotta kick them. Ooh. Yeah, you gotta do that. What about it? You think this video should be longer, shorter? I don't care. I just want to clarify. That was just being funny there. It got kind of real there for a sec. Kind of got kind of real. I'm gonna motivate you. You gotta stand up to the fight. You gotta climb the mountain. You gotta drink the raw eggs. You gotta do all these masculine things. That's actually kind of impressive. I'm not even looking at it. I am looking at the screen here. But I'm not looking at the thing, and I'm actually kind of coordinating. Got a nice watch on. We got these Blade Runner vibes, these purple vibes. We like to have fun. That's part of how you fix it. You gotta have fun. You gotta be free-flowing. You gotta accept life as it is. Ooh. And now it's not in the rule of thirds. Now it's in the rule of thirds. Now you think I'm going crazy? Put that graph over there. It's rule of thirds. Roughly. What? I'm Fred Durst. What? Ooh. Hot dog water. Woo.